everybody. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Homestand Show. I'm Albert Vartanian. James Sharman joins me today. The NBA is back in action. The Raptors are back in action after the All-Star break. It's a 9-game slate. We'll get into that. Also, in the next block, Rob Conway of Bet99 joins us to break down some of the UFC action this weekend. Jon Jones, McGregor. We talk about a lot in that segment. But let's start off with some news. Patrick Kane. James, the man is on fire, being linked everywhere right now. 4-game point streak, 7 goals, 3 assists. Chicago's won 4 in a row, which is not very good. But according to the New York Post, the Rangers are eyeing up a move for Patrick Kane, which doesn't really make any sense to me considering they have less than $1 million in cap space.
Yeah, but you know, the fandangling of accountants in NHL these days, you know, you can have retention, you can have double retention.
Right.
There's always a way, and you can move salary out too. I got the feeling that this move, whether it's the Rangers or not, will happen soon though, right? Because the Hawks can't keep winning.
No.
Right, they got Connor Bedard there, they're fighting for here. Plus, this guy, his stock is an all-time high, but at a high this season. He's on such great form right now. He's come out and he said that he wants to go to the Rangers. He was upset when they signed Panarin.
Yeah, Tarasenko.
Tarasenko. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because he has all the power. If he says to the Hawks, you know, I want to be traded, which is, I think he said that already, but only to this team, he has got a no movement clause, right? So they can't force that through. So I think at this point, it's kind of, if the Rangers want him, they can go out and get him if they're prepared to give up, obviously, another first rounder.
Yeah, they would need a third team for retention purposes, and I think there's just not many teams or contenders that can fit him in.
No, I mean Dallas obviously was being linked earlier
put on
this
a show against
week.
Dallas.
Yeah,
last night.
exactly right. 2 more goals and an assist there. So, listen. The Rangers always find a way, it seems, to get the big names at the deadline for some reason. But I mean that top 6 would be pretty frightening, right? You know, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Tarasenko, and now Kane.
Yeah, but I want to see Patrick Kane back in the playoffs, playing some meaningful hockey. And you're right, Chicago can't keep winning if they want Bedard. By the way, Connor Bedard last night, 6-point night, Sharms, in a 6-3 win over the Medicine Hat Tigers. He now has 111 points, and he has as many 6-point games this season as he has 0 in 2. This is a game changer, franchise changer. 1 of 1 coming into the league.
Is he generational? Yeah,
he
clearly.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, thing is, you get those players now and again coming around, right? And they don't always pan out. They can become very good players. Jason Spezza, I remember, was back in the day considered a generational type talent. He had a really, really great career, Hall of Fame career. Yeah. Was he generational? I don't think so. Alexander Daig, way back when.
What a shout, Sharps.
Right, and obviously more recently, McDavid's just that. Yeah. Austin Matthews, just that. It doesn't always pan out, but this kid seems pretty special right now. He's huge as well, right?
Yeah, and being in the lottery doesn't necessarily guarantee you that first overall pick. But the Hawks need to lose games to guarantee you a better chance.
NHL is so freaking boring, right? with the cap and all the rules, the trades are just kind of dried up. It's getting more exciting. You look at the NBA right now, and you're having these mid-season buyouts.
Blockbusters.
You can opt out of contracts. You know, it's a luxury tax league. So much more excitement. Yeah. The NHL are such draconian, boring old white men.
It's just the nature of the beast, right?
It's that simple, right?
Nature of the beast, hard caps. There's not much you can do. Not much you can do.
Well, there is. You can change the freaking rules, Gary.
Yeah. Come on, Gary.
We want trades. We want player movement.
Yeah.
Fans want player movement.
You know, the deadline's coming up, but I mean, let's be honest, not much is probably going to happen. I think before the deadline, not so much on deadline day.
Do you know how many hours I've ruined and lost in my life just staring at Sportsnet and TSN on a trade deadline day? And then at the end of it, the Leafs get a third liner.
And guess what? You're going to do it again.
I am.
On Friday.
I know.
Let's talk about some Toronto Argonaut news, some CFL news.
Hey now, I love my CFL.
I got to throw this to you. So former Toronto Argos QB, McLeod Bethel Thompson, won't play in the CFL next season. He's signing a deal with the New Orleans Breakers of the USFL. This is obviously big news. They just won a Grey Cup, but he was making a reported 400,000 Canadian dollars in the CFL. Now in the USFL, according to USFL News, he might earn around $4,500 per week in a 10-week season. $45,000 from $400,000. So let me pose this question to you.
Okay.
If somebody came and offered you this to do the exact same job, but for much less, would you take the job?
If it put me in the shop window for something even greater.
Yes, which I think is the plan
here. Which is what he's doing, right? He's doing it because of the NFL, right? USFL, as sad as it is for the CFL right now, the USFL in its second year, as it returns, it's probably a bigger shop window than the CFL.
That says a lot.
It says a lot, right? This is not good for the CFL. I mean, I like his comments. He says all the right things. This guy, he's there for 5 years, right? He says, I don't want this decision in any way to be seen as a dismissal of the CFL, even though it was. I love the CFL and hold it to the highest regard. Playing in the States this year allows family and football to overlap, and I cannot pass up that opportunity. And I get it, right? Family's big to him. I get that, but let's not kid ourselves. It's all about the NFL. And yeah, optically, I think it looks sadly pretty bad on the CFL. We'll see more of these, I think.
Yeah, he's had a really good career. He's made some money in the CFL.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but he's made some.
He's got a cup.
Yeah, apparently his wife is well off. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not. She writes for Marvel or something. So anyway,
If she
best
does,
of
then
luck
she's
to him.
probably pretty well
Best
off.
of luck to him. And listen, if you're a player and you want to give yourself an opportunity to play in the biggest league in the world in your sport, give yourself the shot, right?
At what point is it all about the money, though? At what point? He's
Well,
34.
for him, it's not.
I mean,
Clearly.
even NFL being a destination, he's 34. He's not going to be a starter in the NFL, but even as a backup, you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, probably like a mil, under a mil.
Even practice squad, you're probably making decent money, right?
Yeah, not in the USFL, that's for sure.
Would you move to a
No.
different?
No, I'd say the
You're-
CFL.
you're
I
a
love
loyal-
the Argos. I love the Argos.
Yeah. What about here? Would you leave Homestand
For less
for
money?
less money?
Yeah, for sure. Well, no, I would never do that.
You're a loyal guy.
Yeah. One more thing going on today. Manchester United against Barcelona. I just wanted to mention that massive game between two massive clubs in
we
Europa
talking
League.
soccer
We're
now?
talking soccer,
All right.
Charms. Big game, second leg, 2-2. What do you expect?
Yeah, big game for the Europa League. Both these teams want to be playing Champions League football right now. I think United are plus money at home, which I like. Both teams have some injury concerns. Barca's midfield has been decimated. So 2-2, I've got a feeling United will take this.
Me too. At Old Trafford, I think United push through to the next round. All right, Raptors. Their season kicks off once again. 23 games left for the push for the play-in or playoffs. We're not sure which one's going to happen. They're favorites tonight against the Pelicans. But Nick Nurse was talking about their chances of making the play-in and the playoffs and what they need to do.
Listen, I'm not really looking at the whole big picture, like the 23 games or where it goes. I mean, obviously we need to win and, cheer for the teams around us to not win and, to climb up there. That doesn't change. That probably goes on no matter where we're at. I mean, I think the biggest thing is we got to make sure that we get in some form or fashion and then just get better, right? I think we need to get to playing to where we think we can, and I mean, play pretty good basketball here of late. There's been a couple of slip-ups here and there, but just want to keep progressing, and I really feel like we can line up with anyone. And we certainly haven't made it easy on ourselves, and it hasn't been easy, whatever. But so what? That's the kind of hand we're dealt at this time, and we got to dig in and just continue to play better and see where the chips fall.
I love the way he says, we just need to get in and get better.
Yeah.
Because he's a postseason coach, right? He's not a great regular season coach. He's been ups and downs throughout his career, but he's really great when the money games are there. So he knows just get into the show, see what happens. And it's a young team, pretty young team, that can only grow by getting into the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, but let me ask you this, should the fan base be celebrating being in contention for a play-in at this point, or should they be, listen, they're the champions just a few years ago now, right? It's a rebuild to a certain degree. They didn't go all in the deadline, obviously. They did at the same time, though, kind of back their players saying, we got a chance here to go there, so we're not going to sell off.
Yeah.
Do you think that at this point, is a play-in good enough?
I think for the fans, the feeling was before the deadline that they would be sellers and get into the draft, the tank, and get into the draft and have a chance at when Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson. That's not the case. They ended up becoming buyers and bringing Jakob Poeltl, who I think helps this team a lot. This is the position that you're in right now that, Masai Ujiri put this team in. Listen, I'm giving you this piece. Let's see what we can do with the true rim protector. Let's get in and see how far we can go and then deal with the expiring contracts and what we have to do in the summer. It seems like Masai likes to do his business in the summer, and that's why this is happening.
Yeah, I like that, but I think the fans in this market in particular always look forward, like beyond the present. Like, we could get a great draft pick and start. Rebuilding sucks.
Yeah, no, it does.
It isn't fun. It might be nice when you get the lottery ball and you get Austin Matthews for a night. It's fun, but there's a lot of crap in between there.
You got to get the luck too.
You need to get the luck to get that.
pick.
Exactly, right? So I think a half-decent team which you can improve with Poeltl, for example, is important, right? Because rebuilds aren't fun, even though you get high draft picks. as a fan, they're just really unenjoyable.
You know, I don't think, making the play-in or the playoffs will be celebrated because I think most people assume that they're going to get in and get out pretty quickly. You never know, right? I mean, now everyone's healthy. Jakob Poeltl in the mix, who seems to add a lot to this team. Nick Nurse had this to say about the addition.
Well, I think the big thing that this does is it frees up our wings to guard wings and guards, right? And that we're not using one of them on a center. You know, if you're playing against us and you say, okay, Poeltl's not a three-point shooter, and where does Scotty fall on that line? Let's pack it in there. And those guys to me, they need to shoot with confidence. I think Pascal's a good OG's definitely a good shooter. Pascal's a good shooter, and Scotty certainly makes the catch and shoot ones. And all three of them got to continue to. I already said it, but raise their volume of those looks just so we can keep people honest and create more space for driving and throwing it inside and cutting and stuff later on.
It's all about that domino effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get that garbage collector under the rim, and suddenly Siakam and Scotty Barnes can do what they're good at. You know, they're not put in a position to fail. They're put in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
Because listen, Poeltl is a good signing. Simple as that, right? They're a good defensive team. Can they become a great defensive team now with him there?
Well, that's what he wants. That's what Nick Nurse wants. I mean, last season they were top 10 in terms of defensive rating. They're not there here. I think they're just in the end of the top 20. Poeltl adds so much.
Average, are they?
Yeah, exactly. Bang average. There you go. Bang average defense. With Poeltl, listen, you're going to have your guards actually guarding guards and wings, and that's what Nick Nurse wants. And on offense, Siakam, Scotty Barnes, and those guys are going to get the opportunities to score some points. Anyway, that's it for this block. Coming up, Rob Conway, and we'll talk about this weekend's UFC event.
Welcome back to the Homestand Show. There's a huge UFC card next week.
Next week.
This week, not so much. We're joined by Rob Conway of Bet99. All right, listen, I'm very busy. I watch a lot of sports on the weekend, right? Should I watch and devote some time to this card this weekend or the Honda Classic?
Well, Honda, if you watched the Genesis last weekend, the Honda Classic will be like the UFC fight that's coming up next week compared to what the Honda Classic is this week in the UFC this week. So it is a bit of a letdown for both of those. Having said that, I think the UFC, listen, the thing about the UFC, if you're into MMA, is that look, these guys are fighting, right? So it's styles make fights. How competitive are the fights? So, you know, when you're talking about two guys that in Krylov and Spann that are trying to get into a title conversation, it's going to be a good fight. There's also an all-Canadian matchup as well. It's going to be an interesting card, but certainly it doesn't have the name recognition as Gon and Jones, right? Fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship.
I mean,
so it's intriguing, right?
Yeah, the appetite is there for the fights, but when you're putting on fights every single weekend, you're going to have cards like this that aren't going to be as entertaining as a Jones card or a McGregor card, right? But that's just what it is. Fight nights every week, you're going to have. It's like and in boxing, they used to do that every Saturday Night boxing.
Friday night fights?
Sure.
Friday night fights, exactly, right? Those are entertaining, but not the biggest cards.
But these guys might one day be on those big cards,
totally,
right?
For sure.
Some have been.
Yeah, and the thing about this in particular in the light heavyweight division is there's not even a champion right now. No. Well, I mean, there was, but there's not even like a legit, like, undisputed champion. Jamal Hill is, but I mean, the guy who was the champion got hurt in Prochazka, and then you had a draw between Blachowicz and Ankalaev, and then Hill beat Teixeira. So, like, one of these guys, if they can win this fight and turn it around quick, they could be in a title fight in their next fight. But there are a lot of guys ahead of them in the division at the moment.
That was a great comparison, by the way, the Honda Classic
Yes.
for this. That is bang on, by the way. The Honda Classic. Hey, I'll watch the Honda Classic. The appetite is there for every single golf tournament. But again, right, it's not going to be elevated like the Genesis was.
Right. But the big one is next week, right?
Yes.
Jon Jones back in the ring again. It's been, 3 years? He's up a weight class. But why should I care about Jon Jones now the same I did for Jon Jones 3 years back?
It's a good question. You know, it's an opportunity for him to be double champion, for him to win in the heavyweight division, but many consider him the GOAT. He has one loss, and it was from doing 12-6 elbows when he wasn't supposed to. He's really an undefeated fighter. And, you know, I had a conversation with the GOAT, in my opinion, Georges St. Pierre, and I asked him, who are you more excited to see? Are you more excited to see McGregor coming back in the summer or Jones? And the UFC would be more excited to see McGregor, he said, and understandably so. That's pay-per-view sales. But Jones, in his mind, could be the greatest fighter of all time, and now there's an opportunity for him to come back. If he were to win, it could set up a massive fight with Ngannou. Who knows? He's not under contract. Is he going to boxing? But I'm sure the money will drag him back in. There's a lot to do there. The Jon Jones outside of the octagon, there's obviously lots of issues. He could have easily been the GOAT and already done all of the things he needs to do in the UFC if he, didn't do certain things outside of it. But this is an opportunity to see if he's always going to be in the conversation with the St. Pierres and the Silvas and all that stuff. But can he elevate himself above all of them? Is going to be decided over his next few fights.
Yeah, Jon Jones is box office. You want to see him fight. Even what happens outside of the cage makes him all that more entertaining.
Sure.
Because you want to, how's he going to show up?
Yeah.
Right? Is he still doing that, whatever he was doing? Or, is he going to be at his best? Which he always is. No matter what fight, who he's fighting, he's always at the best. And he said, listen, doesn't matter what weight division, I can dominate it.
Yeah.
Now he's going to show us. I think that he will. I think he's going to beat Gunn.
But I mean, could there be a press conference between now and then with Jon Jones and Dana White, and something's gone terribly wrong?
Yes.
It's been a test or something.
Absolutely.
That's the thing with Jon Jones, right?
Exactly. And that's I guess kind of what you're saying, Albert. Like, that's the intrigue about all of it.
Yeah.
Is you don't want after the fight and him to win and then to be a no contest or anything like that. But yeah, something could happen. I mean, I think he's got the discipline right now and the focus to make sure that between now and fight night nothing's going to happen. But who knows if there's some backstage issues because at the weigh-in or something like that. We've seen lots of different crazy things go on at a UFC weigh-in. So he will be, I think, must-watch TV next week.
Yeah, and you're also tuning in because there's a chance he might lose this fight. Cyril Gane he's a really good heavyweight,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And Jones hasn't fought at that weight before.
Yeah.
So you're going to tune in, one, to see Jones fight because he's returning, and potentially, what if he loses? Then what happens
Well,
next?
he said he was bored before, right? And that's why he's gone up a division here.
He destroyed that division light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But if he does lose at this weight,
Yeah.
might he go back down a division, or would he just keep fighting at this weight and trying to prove himself?
I don't know if there's anything there for him. I don't think he'd go
The
back
heavyweight
down.
division's weak, Rob?
Very.
It's very weak.
It's very weak, and it's like he said, like Dominic Reyes probably had dreamed of fighting me, and what am I doing here? And there isn't anyone in there yet. The real question was, were they going to maybe figure out a way to get Jones fighting Adesanya, and would he go down or come up?
That's
and
the
there
one.
are super fights,
Yeah.
but I don't think anyone in the division will draw him back at the moment. I think he's the betting favorite. He's a betting favorite.
He opened as a dog, actually.
Yeah, he's
It
down
changed.
like minus 160 right
Yeah.
now, and he has, like you say, he hasn't fought in years, and he's going up a weight class. But it's the history of what Jon Jones is, the skill set that he has, and what he's able to do, and the domination of all that. And I think I just love to see him win, and then fight Ngannou and drag him back into the UFC.
You know what? If he does go on a tear in this heavyweight division, I think you're right. I think the fight is Adesanya. Adesanya said essentially that he wants to fight Jon Jones at a certain time, but he needs to do what he needs to do first in his division.
Yes.
He's got to get his title back.
Yes.
Alex Pereira probably fight him again if he wins that next fight. But I think the super fight, if Jones can go on a tear, if Adesanya can finish that light heavyweight or middleweight division,
Yeah.
then it's them at a catch.
But those fights so rarely happen, right? It makes
I know.
sense. You see the
But that's
pathway.
the one.
I mean, a guy that knows all about taking time off from fighting and then returning is Mike Tyson, of course.
Yeah.
He was speaking this past week in this Hot Boxing podcast with The Undertaker, of all people. A great interview, by the way, but talking about what is box office in the fight game. Ellie, roll it.
You don't got the only guys that got all the money is guys with a gimmick. Look at Conor McGregor. He has a gimmick. He's crazy. He's bold. A gimmick. Real life, he's a beautiful guy.
Yeah.
But you have to have a gimmick.
So it sells tickets, puts
Yeah,
asses in
gimmicks.
seats.
That's what because you to put them butts.
It's fascinating. Seeing The Undertaker there, by the way, it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
It's still
but
weird to me. Like, I love The Undertaker, but now he's doing all these podcasts. He's
Yeah.
got a one-man show.
Yeah.
It's weird hearing him speak the way he is. And He's
Yeah.
a really nice guy, which kind of sucks, right? Because he's a dead man, right?
He's arisen, though, from the
Yeah,
from,
he's great.
from
His
the depths
stories
of
are.
death.
I don't know if you guys have watched. He's done a couple podcasts with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Unbelievable stories. If you're into professional wrestling and just the behind the scenes, how his character was created, fantastic.
So they're talking though about what makes a box office in the fight game, right? And it's about the gimmick, according to Mike Tyson. And of course, Iron Mike had the gimmick. He was just ruthless.
Yeah.
He was psychotic. What a fighter. Conor McGregor he talks about, but that's where the money is.
Right.
And Jon Jones has that too, right? In as far as wonderful world class fighter, but all the crap outside the ring has almost elevated him.
Exactly, and all that really matters in the fight game, is sales, pay-per-view sales, and then you get your guaranteed money, but that's basically because they know you're going to sell X amount of pay-per-views, and that's what Mike Tyson did. People would go and watch and just to see how quickly he would win a fight. You're going to spend $100, maybe not $100 back then, whatever it was, to hope he knocked the guy out in 30 seconds. It was crazy, but that's what Mike Tyson was, and that was, like you said, his gimmick. But Conor McGregor has this unbelievable ability to draw you into a fight and sell it. And the perfect example is against Mayweather. Like, he had no business being in that fight. He's boxing against considered the greatest boxer of all time, certainly pound for pound, he's up there. And yet, there was money coming in on betting, all right? And there was tons of people wanting to watch it just because he was able to sell the fight. And that's the difference. I don't know if Jon Jones can sell the fight. His life has made him being able to sell the fight, but he doesn't have...
It's less contrived.
But Conor McGregor, like, he always has the liners. He always is able to create animosity with people, and people love it. They just eat it up.
Yeah, he's got the best of both worlds, Conor McGregor. I mean, maybe not now, but at one point he was the best fighter in the world and the best trash talker.
That's true. Both right, yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to knock this guy out in the first round. He goes and does it. Now you're like, oh, I need to watch this guy fight. And you just build off that momentum consistently. And then what he does to fighters in these press conferences, he takes them out of their shell. Look at Jose Aldo.
That was unreal.
He was like, he's a stoic fighter, never really said too much. McGregor broke him. Habib never said anything, and he goes into the press conference. He's like, I'm going to smash your guy. Habib never said that stuff before, but McGregor brought it out of them. I think he's probably the only guy who can do that. Jones, to a certain extent, I think, with Cormier, but at the top of the list, like, it's McGregor. If you look at the most buy rates in UFC history, it's McGregor. Like, there's no one like him.
Is he still must watch?
Absolutely, yeah.
Even later
and he's got stuff going on outside the cage as well. So again, best of both worlds.
It gets you into fights you don't deserve. Chael Sonnen was the best at that. He
Yeah,
was able to
that's
bring
right.
guys in as well. And so McGregor, he might fight for a title because of the fact that he can sell it.
Yeah, listen, the fight game's in a good shape right now, I think. Both
Yeah.
boxing-wise right now, and of course UFC. So much to look forward to this weekend.
Yes.
And of course throughout the spring and the summer.